Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Cancel culture has enveloped somebody who was trying to stay out of politics. So, of course, it's true that politics is downstream of culture, but it seems that the politics is trying to work its way upstream. And that's what we're seeing today, because something that you would think is not really political, and of course the method that I've tried to use in a way to get a message across without giving it a political label, now seems to be falling down. That is to say, the message of having individual responsibility and say that you are responsible for your own life, your own fate, and you've got to do the best with what you've got, that is now a cancelable offence, as we see from the Mail Online. Fury, as KPMG boss, becomes latest victim of cancel culture after being forced to quit over video telling well-paid woke staff they are lucky and should not moan during pandemic. Yes, when you've got thousands, in fact over 10,000 staff, and you have a video call and your entire staff of, I think, 16,000 see it, chances are you're going to have a few who always think that they deserve more despite not doing anything to earn it, and they are going to be the ones that are coming for your head. Just like, of course, when you have the verified check marks on Twitter coming after you, even though it might be millions of people that have heard what you've said, but you get a few dozen negative responses, then suddenly that's blown out of proportion. It seems to be the same thing happening here. It is, again, the vocal minority. However, the most concerning thing, as I said at the start, is that it wasn't anything of saying, oh, conservatism is good, or I support Trump, anything like that, or anything that has become politically divisive in terms of election meddling, or the efficacy of COVID lockdowns, or the deadliness of COVID itself. It was nothing to do with any of that. Or saying how effective hydroxychloroquine is. Nothing like that at all. So, what was it in particular? Well, it was one, of course, saying that the staff had to receive a pay cut in order to not furlough anybody, and in order to ensure that nobody got fired either. That was the decision made, right? And nobody likes that, obviously. And normally it's easier to just fire 10% of your staff instead of having to cause a 10% pay cut to your staff, because then also they think, well, if I'm only getting paid 90%, then I'm only going to work 90% as hard, which is understandable, but that defeats the purpose of doing it in the first place, which is why it is often more common and, sad to say, more desirable to just fire the least performing workers instead. Ordinarily, that's the way to do it. If times get difficult and they're the ones that haven't been pulling their weight, it's an understandable risk of the situation. Oh, of course, with a furlough scheme, you could use that. But no, Bill Michael decided that that wasn't how he wished to do things. He'd been with that company for 30 years and been chairman for 3 years, and that didn't think that would fit in with the ethos of what they've developed as a company. So fair enough. You're trying to keep people's jobs instead. They got a bit of a pay cut, but at least they still got their job. Decided to spend, I think, £45 million revamping their offices and making it easier to work from home, again, so that nobody needs to be furloughed. Good man. But there's one clip from one video meeting that he made, and that's what's ticked them off, including the fact that unconscious bias training is ineffective at best, but detrimental at worst. I think the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, one of their weekend ones, went into detail on this a little while back, but long story short, it would only be effective on people who actually wanted to take that training, in which case they wouldn't need it in the first place. If people aren't aware of these things, then they're not going to act on them. That's the point of it being unconscious, that they're not acting on it, otherwise it would then become conscious. So it doesn't matter about unconscious bias, because until it becomes conscious, as I say, it's not being acted on, and it doesn't matter. The thought police doesn't matter. Even if somebody is aware of it, then they would know to not act on it anyway. So again, it doesn't matter. But more often than not, the response is, oh, I see, there are these protected groups that we've got to really pussyfoot around to make sure that they're not, emotionally harmed by what we're saying or doing in our normal day-to-day life, in which case we're going to be very wary about them and exclude them from the interactions that we have because we don't know the kind of thing that could upset them, in which case we're not going to bother. It's like men tapping out of dating because of sexual assault allegations, but on a lesser scale. That is the response. Or even worse is, of course, saying, oh, I see, so our job was doing just fine, and then the anger towards having to be on the receiving end of unconscious bias training isn't pointed at the utter tosspots who are implementing those policies, but instead at the protected groups that are being, protected from having fun and from joining in with the rest of them. And so the unconscious bias training results in conscious bias against these groups in order to get rid of them, so that the workers who were doing their job just fine beforehand do not need to worry about them. And that is the result. But what did he say? Well, he said, right, I don't think this point of, unconscious bias. I think unconscious bias is complete crap. Complete and utter crap for years. There's no such thing as unconscious bias. I don't buy it. Because after every single unconscious bias training that's ever been done, nothing's ever improved. So he's going with the empirical side, basically. Is it measurable? No. Okay, fine. But is there something you can do which then has a measurable effect afterwards? No. In which case, it doesn't seem like it exists. Even if it does, there's nothing that can be done about it, in which case we can safely ignore it. The response is saying, oh, just because we haven't figured out the answer yet doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Yeah, okay, but can you prove it exists? No. There we go then. Jobs are good 'un. The other thing is, of course, saying, take as much influence of your own diary, of your own life, of whatever. Because I've spoken to a lot of partners and people at all sorts of levels where it almost feels that this is being done to them. Well, you can't play the role of victim unless you're sick. I hope you're not sick, and you're not ill, and if you're not, take control of your life. Don't sit there and moan about it, quite frankly. And it's an old Les Brown story of a guy's walking along the street, and he sees on one of the porches out front a family sitting around, and there's a dog laying down, just quietly moaning. The man stops for a minute, ponders, and asks the family, he's like, why's your dog moaning? And the family says, oh, it's because he's laying on a nail. The guy said, well, why doesn't the dog move then? It's like, well, it doesn't hurt that much. And that's the point, that it's just a tolerable hell. That if something's bad enough to complain about, then it's bad enough to do something about it. If it's not bad enough to do something about it, then don't complain about it. The old dictum of, we want solutions, not problems. So if somebody's in this position thinking, this isn't as good as it could be, go, okay, cool, how good could it be? Go, oh, it could be better in these ways. Cool, and how do we implement them? So, oh, you could implement them by doing this. Brilliant. Then how about you kick off with that and say we can improve it by doing this? That's the kind of response that we're looking for here. Not, oh great, here's that worker again, and all they've ever got is problems, and I need to fix things for them. That's not really my job. Or, even if it is, isn't it easier to hire somebody who isn't causing me so many problems? The fact of the matter is, a lot of managers just want an easy life and want to say, you know how to do your job, so get on and do it. Here if you need me, otherwise, just do your job. And I'm sure that a lot of you are the same as well, that we would much rather just get on with our job instead of being micromanaged. So for people who are actually passionate or wish to have the job, it works perfectly. But the response is, of course, oh, well, one wrote, oh yeah, out of 16,000 UK staff, one of them wrote, there's no such thing as unconscious bias. Are you joking? Please do your research before just making such statements. Check your privilege. I thought that term had fallen out of favour, but I guess they just haven't updated their repertoire. It is great to see, though, isn't it? that, so someone's got a claim. What is it? Unconscious bias exists. So, okay, cool. I see no evidence of that. So at the minute, I'm just going to say it doesn't exist because I'm yet to be proven otherwise. So, you should do your research. Yeah. So, well, I have. But if you want to point me in the right direction, please provide evidence for your claim, because this is quite an outlandish claim. So, no, check your privilege. So, well, what persuaded you that it exists? So, and they don't really have a response for that. It's like, but it clearly does. Cool. What got you thinking that way? And that's it. It's like, well, I remain unconvinced. I'm sure you understand that. How about if I were to say to you, there was massive electoral fraud that cost Donald Trump the election? You would say, not true. It's like, cool. And now this is my turn to provide my evidence, isn't it? But they don't like that either. There's no winning. Another staff member said, people are struggling with serious mental health issues, and having our leadership tell us to shut up and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps is heartbreaking. I would say I don't mean to laugh, but I really do. It's like, yeah, you're having mental health issues, and I sympathise. You'd be earning enough in order to go seek therapy, if you wish, or speak with your family instead, or realise that there are more things that are more important, and focus on them. Perfect. Where focus goes, energy flows. It's self-fulfilling prophecies the whole way down. Another one said, so we got 3 out of 16,000. Did Bill Michael say unconscious bias is just crap? Herein lies the issue. Whilst the training may not be effective, to say it doesn't exist is just reckless. Yeah, so 3 complaints, and so he's had to step down. Perfect. Good job, guys. Well done. I'm sure he's easy to replace instead of those 3 cunts. Yeah. Perfect. Well done. And until it really starts hurting their bottom line, as hopefully it will do soon, they're not really going to take any notice. And it is a saying of get woke, go broke. And there will continue to be the case, but it's just got to be lined up more obviously in order for the decision makers to go, no, this vocal minority is full of crap, and we've refuted them enough that we're not going to listen to them anymore. And unfortunately, it seems like this is going to have to come down to being a generational discrepancy. And so we're just going to have to wait until the old guard leave and the new guard come in. And I don't mean millennials by that. I really don't. But it is to continue to push the messages, the narratives, to change the culture in order to ensure that sooner rather than later, this shift does happen. So it isn't a passively waiting, no, but it is aggressive patience. That's what it comes down to. You've got to keep doing what you're doing in order to enact the change that you want. Yes, I am parroting his words here to say that you're responsible, because in a way you are. But just to wrap up, because I think it's worth doing something that is more wholesome, from his wife, because she says that he works a lot, but he's always back by 5 p.m. on a Friday to watch his daughter's netball practice. Good man. Michael tweeted on the 2nd of April 2020, so it is a bit old. Fair dues. But nonetheless. Traffic is gone, long queues are gone, fuel is affordable, bills extended, the kids are at home with their families' parents and are home taking care of their children, fast food replaced by home-cooked meals, hectic schedules replaced by naps, the air seems cleaner, the world quieter, people are conscious about hygiene and health again, money doesn't seem to make the world go round anymore, the NHS does, and we now have time, finally, to stop and smell the roses. It seems like this COVID-19 is a reset button for humanity. Thank you, NHS. Small disagreement there, and it's a reset button. Yeah, it seems like a great reset. Oh, hang on. But she does raise some very valid points, that it's not all about the money. It's about your routines. It is about what you choose to be grateful for. If you develop that sense of gratitude, you'll live a much happier life. And no matter what happens, there are always going to be things that you can be grateful for, however small they are. And if you keep your faith and your hope in those things, you will come out of it the other side. But all you have is the power of the human will. And there's nothing stronger than that. But if you lose it, you're gonna. Doesn't matter how good the world is around you. If you're not seeing it, it's meaningless. So keep your spirits up. Keep doing what you're doing. list 3 things that you're grateful for. Keep going at it, and just remember that the journey is more important than the destination, because we're all ending up in the same place. And until next time, as always, have a good one.